What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Franchise Unpacked. I'm your host, Zach.
And I'm your other host, Dave.
And we're here. It's a rainy Monday. We always talk about the weather.
We do.
First thing,
We're basic.
We are.
In that sense.
Basic bees.
Basic bees.
That's going to be our next podcast.
It's
the Basic
funny,
Bees.
The Basic Bees. That's our Patreon. The exclusive behind a paywall.
Right.
You hear that laugh. We are actually, this is a take two of an episode. We originally recorded this a couple months ago.
Yeah,
this one,
and unfortunately, so we're gonna pull back the curtain here a little bit.
Yeah.
When we record guests, now we have Dave and I sharing a microphone, which is why sometimes I sound like I'm like off in outer space. But like,
year away.
yeah, but a lot of times we used to give our guests their own mic, and it just presented all kinds of problems. And one day I was like, you know what? I'm gonna plug in this mic into my computer at the same time, and we're gonna. I had some like grand plan. I don't know what I was thinking.
That we were going to be able to do it with three mics.
And it didn't work at all. So what ended up happening was his mic, we're gonna formally introduce him in a second. It got so choppy, and like I started hearing this like click, click, and then as time went on, it went click, 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 and by then it was like it was just like full blown
machine
like
gun fire.
Yeah, it really was. It really was.
Yeah, well, there was nothing we could do to save the episode. So Zach and I recorded another episode that week, released it, but we promised him we'd bring him back into the studio. And without further ado, we have our friend Jijan Jelevic. Did I say it?
Yeah, you said it. You said it. I mean, you had that weird pause in the middle, but yes.
He's here in the studio again. Jijan, welcome.
Thank you guys for having me yet again.
How you doing, man?
Dude, I'm doing great. I'm actually really excited.
Siri's talking to
Siri
us.
wanted to join. Sorry. Siri, just get out of here. Okay, we're back.
What were you saying?
Back.
Sorry.
And we're back.
But seriously, guys, thank you again for having me. I just waited until you guys are ready to have me again. I'm so excited to do this yet again.
Talking about Fallout. And if you clicked on the link, we're talking about Fallout today.
Yeah.
One of my favorites, and we brought Jijan in because like we usually start most of the episodes, we like to do a little bit of our history with the games.
Right, sure.
And my history directly relates with Jijan, but Jijan, we want to hear about your first kind of your first memory, either hearing about it or seeing it and experiencing it.
Wait, can I interrupt for half a second?
Yeah, go ahead.
Your guys' first experience is going to be way cooler than mine. So I'm going to get mine out of the way first so I don't look as bad.
Okay, sure.
Okay,
Zach, yeah.
My first experience,
Do it up.
I literally picked up Fallout 3. That was it. I just heard some people saying good things about it, tried it out. I mean, I loved it. It's an absolutely incredible game.
Did you finish it?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
good.
You bought it just on hearsay?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. No. Well, because I loved because Skyrim came out. Oh no, that was after Fallout 3.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes, it was years later.
I think I had played a little bit of Oblivion, so I kind of knew their styling a little bit, and I just loved kind of that sandbox RPG style. So yeah, just for me, that was my whole story, because I know it was going to come around to me, and after your guys' story, it's going to look like garbage. But yeah, you guys go ahead. What's your guys' story?
Well, my first real memory of it was I had heard about the game, and like being a gamer, I'd seen it online, but when I was a junior in college, so I was 21, my first apartment, and it was right when I kind of a few months after I'd met Jijan, and he was hanging out a lot, and Fallout 3 was coming,
it was the Game of the Year edition.
Yeah, Game of the Year edition.
Yeah, with all like the special.
Because I knew it had come
boxes
out prior, and you had talked about, but you're like, oh, the Game of the Year edition's coming out. I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna bring my PlayStation over. And I remember on that weekend you got it. All we did was we watched you play like all weekend. Watched it. We loved it. And then like Monday came. I had to go to class from like 8 till 5. Then I had rehearsal from like 5 till 10 or something. So I was gone all day. When I left, Jijan was sitting in front of the TV at like 7 in the morning, playing it with a jar of GFS peanuts next to him, a full jar, unopened container, and like a gallon of water. And when I came back, he hadn't moved. Nothing, just the jar of peanuts was now half empty. And like several water refills later, but like it was, I was like, wow, this must be one hell of a game. And I remember being like, I can't wait to start my own character.
I had my own like bottle of purified water.
You did, yeah. You did. Well, yeah. What about you, Gigi?
It was actually like a weird like start to the game for me. Like not like while playing, but like, well, I guess because I went over to my friend's house like in high school, like before I even graduated, and he was like kind of not even that far through, and he was trying to explain the game to me like in a nutshell. He's like, yeah, it's like after the world ends, I have a third arm, it is mutations, and he was doing actually like a really bad job explaining, like terrible.
Wait a minute.
And I was like, wait, I don't understand this, and I tried playing it like on his saved file, and none of it made sense. I didn't understand what was going on. And then our friend Wilhelm got me back into it, saying, I think you should try it. I think it'd be great. And when I ended up playing it, I just absolutely fell like in love. I love how you just start off as literally an infant, and then you just and then the story just kind of unfolds from there. And I thought, oh, this is like such a really unique experience. And yeah, it was like,
well, and that was, I mean, I'm sure there were games that did something similar to that before. But the fact that you could just, like you were saying, you start off as a toddler, like you're picking out what skills you want from birth.
Oh yeah, he didn't even explain that they had skills, and like I didn't understand that until I started doing it myself, and it was
I
really
think that's one thing about any of the Bethesda games that it almost entices you to do a second playthrough. If you guys are anything like me, what I always ended up doing was I would start a character, I would play the first maybe 2 hours of the game, find out what some of those skills did, and then totally reset my game and pick the skills that I knew I wanted.
And especially, too, once you can get a little bit of the mechanics down, get used to the feel of the game, then you're like, well, you know what? There was that spot I should go back. Like right at the beginning, I'm like, I think I missed something. Or like, oh, I can do that. I should have done it back there. And I always do the same thing. Or I'll really sloppily beat a game. I'll like rush through just the story, not really focus on side missions. I do that a lot for like GTA.
Yes.
Grand Theft Auto game.
Yeah.
And then I'll quit because I'll want to restart it so bad, but with all of my skills that I'm like so much better at.
Well, I thought like also like we specifically Fallout 3, like there was other games that I played as a kid that had like such iconic characters and sometimes only an iconic character.
Yeah.
And I think Fallout 3 was the first time that I was like, oh my God, I like love this person. I love Moira and
It was a whole cast.
It was just and like I love it because like I'm obviously it's a spoiler, but with Megaton, you could choose to save it and do all these amazing things and go through Moira and get the Wasteland survival guide, and depending on how you complete it depends on what type of skills you get. I thought that was such mind-blowing. And of course, even with Moira, like even if you choose to blow up Megaton, she just was still a peppy, lovable. She was like a ghoul version of, but still like with that positive attitude of hers. And it was just such a, I never experienced that like that with games. Just like falling in love with each character I felt like, met, and they were all so
ensemble
different.
Cast.
Yes. Yeah. It was so great.
Let's get into a little bit of the details now. I'm sure if no one's ever played or knows what Fallout is, they're probably like, what the hell is this game about? The first game came out in 1997. Fallout 1 and Fallout 2 were before Bethesda had it, or before Bethesda was probably even a real thing, its own separate entity. They were top-down strategy.
It wasn't quite top-down. It was
not quite
like
top-down.
Diablo.
Like Diablo.
You know what
tilted,
I mean?
It's still like above, the camera's above, and it was more a game of like choices, and it wasn't an action game. They're games like strategic. I don't want to call it like a real-time strategy game, but they're those games where like each little character can take a turn on the map, almost like a little chess game.
Right. Yes.
And it was it was the first of its type to really. It was focused on interaction with the characters you meet in towns. It was about exploration, going into these towns after a nuclear fallout. Sort of.
It was set in this alternative history, where
alt future, alt history.
Yeah, like World War II didn't go, or World War One.
It was referencing actually right before the Cold War. Back. So a little bit of the story of I think it was most Fallouts, but it was like, what happens if after World War II, we went into the Cold War and we lost,
right? And
we get bombed by the Russians, so we get like nuked. That's why all of America is nuked. And what was really cool about that is because when you bomb people back to the Stone Age, that's why everything is set in the 50s and 60s.
Yeah.
Because with everything being bombed back, progression of culture doesn't get to progress. That's why everything is set in the 50s. That's why people still have that like 50s kind of jive talk to them. And it was really funny because like it's basically what would happen if real life or events like that would unfold by if you have science and intelligence and weapons kind of being progressive in the science fiction aspect, but everything of culture and people the way
it's kind of like that parallel timeline.
Yeah, it's really cool though. Like I thought it was such a cool job of doing that.
There was a little slight tweet Twitch.
There's a slight
Twitch. Blah, 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 words. Tweak to that. I believe what happened was after World War II,
Yes.
the Cold War, 1950s, those wars, Vietnam, that really, I don't know if those happened. What occurred was everybody kind of met an alliance. There was an allegiance, and that's why technology, they used nuclear power, and that's why they had like flying cars and stuff. In the 50s. They stopped focusing on progression of like entertainment. That's why they still have the music. The war that nuked everybody happens with China.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
and I don't think it happens until like the 21st century. Beginning of the 21st century, because then it's like 200 years later is when I think the fallout, like by the 22nd and 23rd century, I think. Well, and it was like a fake war with China brought us into it.
Oh, that's right.
And one thing too that was very noticeable in like the first couple games is they were still kind of finding their boundaries and their limits.
Yeah.
There was a lot of censorship in like Germany, for example, or like these,
Australia too. Yeah.
Yeah, like because in the first couple games there would be children walking around that you could kill. And like there was a perk for it. There was like the kid killer perk.
Yeah,
and
in the first two games.
Yeah, and they took it out for anything like, overseas. I think it got left in for the American version. I could be wrong.
They did initially, but they changed it to where there's a perk where you could just unlock more dialogue amongst children.
Okay.
So what you're saying about the kid killing perk, that actually was a perk, I believe in the earlier, like I think one had it, or
Before
maybe
Game of the Year edition. Or something.
Yeah.
Now, but you could only really interact with kids in town. There weren't like kids running around the fields, were there?
Yeah, remember what was that little lamp like?
Oh, yeah, little lamp. But that was a little town, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a cave full of kids.
It's a weird situation in gaming where it's like if there are children in a video game, and I'm talking about like any video game, they are always in an area where you can affect them.
Yeah.
Or they're either in cutscenes. Like Grand Theft Auto is a very large, vibrant city with no children in it.
Right.
Like it's just only adults, which totally get.
Yeah,
I mean, my goodness.
You have to do it.
It would be
That'd be an
problematic.
uproar. I think that's the type of thing that can send a game into
really bad
not even like
publicity.
the adults only rating, but just to be something that would be.
You've got to be a kid character yourself in the game. Like in Bully, to punch other kids.
Sure.
If you're a kid, you can punch other kids in a game. But
even
okay.
so, like in a game like Bully, I mean, I could be wrong. I haven't played it, but I don't believe you kill anybody.
No.
You know what I mean? And I think
you do horrible, violent things to people. But yeah. And then after the first two games, they went into first person mode. With Fallout 3 was the first like full 3D. What I would appreciate. I feel like if I had played Fallout 1 or 2, I might not have.
I actually did play them, and I did beat them because it's in my nature to beat it. I cannot not beat a game. I have literally not have one game that I haven't beaten that I've played.
Really?
Yeah, I've beaten every game, even if it had the worst ending or like whatever it is. I have to beat it. It's just like in my nature too.
Good for you.
But I didn't enjoy them as much. I didn't like.
You played Fallout 3 first out of any of them?
I played Fallout 3 first.
So yeah, you had
I had a different
Same with me.
Yes, yeah, and it was kind of hard to get into them. Not saying I didn't enjoy them, but I didn't enjoy them as much because I didn't find the lore of those games more enticing than what I was playing 3 in New Vegas.
It's tough. I mean, we mentioned it on the Diablo episode with David. I had not played Diablo 1 until years after I'd been obsessed with Diablo 2. So going back, it was a true like step down.
Oh yeah, of
and
course.
I mean, you're going to expect that, but when you're like, man, this is an amazing game. I'm glad they made this prototype and then made a sequel because I think I played like a couple hours of Diablo 1. I'm like, well, I can just play this. Diablo 2 is literally this times a million.
Yeah.
So like I might as well be playing that game.
Absolutely.
Whereas Fallout is like, this is almost a complete. So I'm sure there are fans who could appreciate both equally if you really appreciate tactics. That's the game. That's the word.
Yeah,
Tactics.
Fallout Tactics.
Like
there's Fallout
tactics.
1, Fallout 2, and Fallout Tactics.
Yes, Fallout Tactics. Yep. And then they had Final Fantasy Tactics. They've had tactics is a good. I think it's a term for that type of strategy game where it's like turn based.
Tactics did
but
not
on like
do
a
well
tile.
though. That was like it did so bad because I think.
Well, and one thing that Fallout really introduced was this idea of the VATS targeting system, which okay, so for those of you who haven't played it, it's the system that stops time and it allows you to hone in on your target. So like if you want to get a headshot, you'll see somebody's head targeted and it'll give you a percentage chance. Like, you know, if you aim for the head,
The closer you are, the higher the chance.
right?
too.
Yeah, or the higher the accuracy on your weapon, the higher the chance. Yeah.
Or higher, even if they are super far away, it depends on what type of gun you're using,
Yeah,
and
right.
also
Even-
on your like how much skill points you have in perception.
It was the first time an amazing feat when there was like an enemy halfway behind a wall that like half of his body was literally 0% and it was able to delineate what was exposed to
right.
your weapon. And I was like,
unless you had that
that's
one
pretty
skill that
incredible.
could shoot through objects,
oh,
then
for
that was
sure.
the best.
Well,
yeah.
and I think the thing with that too, though, is you know it almost pushed you to always use VATS. Like it gave you the option to do just straight up combat, but every single thing in that game points you toward using VATS.
Well, I remember you saying that really reminded me that every time you got into like, if it was like two guys, I'd be like, I don't need that. I mean, pop, 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 I don't need
Right.
that. But if you entered a room and there's like a bunch of dudes and they're on guard, they haven't noticed you yet, I would always hit VATS right away where you were. And you're just like, okay,
Assess the
lay of the
situation.
land,
Yeah.
see what the situation is, back on up. And then, you're right. And that's, we're going to get into it with Fallout 76 here in a little bit with the lack of VATS and how big of when we say it's integral to, I think, the game itself.
It's what makes Fallout.
But
If you take it away, you just made a Skyrim with assault weapons.
Right.
And which is fine, but it's not a multiplayer experience. That's
I
for
will
sure.
say though, did you guys ever get the Mysterious Stranger perk?
oh yeah, he was literally the best.
It's incredible. So like, did you do it or not?
I remember
Yeah.
him, and I probably
So
had
like, what would happen is like once in a while, it was like a 3% chance or something like that. But this guy would walk out of nowhere in a trench coat and like a some sort of like bowler hat.
He's like a G-man.
And, yeah, and he would just walk out and like he would
a
have
revolver.
like, a revolver, and he would just go bam, bam, and shoot whatever enemy. One hit kill every
Yes.
single time.
Do you know what's
That's
funny?
nuts.
I would like to add, I loved him, and I always thought that you would always eventually get to meet.
That'd be so cool.
Right.
But they did something cool in Fallout 4. Is that what's the detective's name? I can't.
Yeah. The
Valentine.
hard-talking Valentine.
Yeah,
the robot
Valentine.
Yeah.
detective.
I will say, if you did have Valentine as your companion and the Mysterious Stranger perk equipped, he will mention like, "Hey, who was that?" And I thought that was
cool.
really cool. Like, hey,
That's
hey,
interesting.
where'd he go? Like, and it's just like I thought that was
That's
really
cool.
funny.
You
You
It's
see,
like
I love
little
little
nod
stuff
to
like that.
yeah.
One
I
of
know.
my favorite parts, and it wasn't a
So yeah, what's your
playable thing.
what's your favorite part about any Fallout game? Like,
favorite Fallout.
Not Fallout game, just like a specific
Experience.
moments or experience or just dialogue or anything, because I'd like to hear it.
I think, man,
That
the
stumped you?
general. Yeah, you did something. The general, just the feel of exploring this wasteland, seeing the distance. I always like a game where it's like
Vast.
it's vast. You can fast travel in it, but there
didn't want
is an
to.
emptiness to it, but it's realistic because of the situation.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in like we were talking on this one of the Zelda episodes with Breath of the Wild being a huge beautiful open world game, there are moments of just emptiness.
Yeah,
True
yeah.
emptiness where it's almost like, oh wow, I'd like at least like a tree or something. Like
Yes.
whereas in Fallout it just does such a good job of putting you in that post-apocalyptic world. I
Yeah.
think that's just the overall theming of it is my favorite.
I think for me, it was probably, well, first of all, Fallout 4 is my favorite one.
Okay.
Which I know might not be a super popular opinion. A lot of people like 3 better or New Vegas better. 4 is my favorite. And I think it was this cool aspect of you kind of got to build a little bit. You got to really customize up your weapons.
That was
and it had a lot more of you would kill someone and you would get this weird mod on their weapon that you can only have on that weapon. And if you lose it or if you accidentally discard it, it's gone forever. Like I had one weapon that had the Crippler mod, and whenever, a death claw could be sprinting at me and I'd shoot it, and it had like a 20% chance to cripple its leg,
Yeah, that was-
and then it was not able to attack me. It was just like, limping toward. I felt bad a little bit, if I'm being honest. But what about you?
So mine is like kind of silly, and then for the people listening, I hope this brings something to your heart. But it was Vault 108 in Fallout 3. Now
very
I'll give you
specific.
it was because in the game, you when you find places, you think of like, oh, my favorite loot. I go there because I know that weapon's there,
Right.
And the loot was not great. I mean, yeah, I found my charisma bobblehead, but the thing that it was just like. It was the first time that got me into the lore of the game more, and I'll explain that in a sec. But I was going in this place, and I just heard a bunch of Gary, Gary, and it was just
yeah.
like these dudes saying Gary, and I was like, what the it was, first of all, it was the first time I heard an NPC say something that wasn't, hey, who's over there, you know what I
Right,
mean?
right.
So it was just like, okay, this is weird, and I thought it was like a little bit strange at first, and then all you see is just a bunch of Garys with a bunch of numbers after their name, and I'm just like, what is going on? And all they say is like Gary, and then just like hit you with something, like, and I was so confused. And then I read his terminal, and I was getting like the backstory of the vault and how all the men were Gary for whatever reason. And then you start reading more terminals, and it was like a lot of infertility was happening with a guy named Gary. And then you realize that a bunch of girls never liked him, and that's why all the women corridors and things are blocked off. And you really,
oh my gosh.
And I started reading more terminals, and that's when I overlooked terminals, because usually when I went to terminals it was to unlock something, whatever.
Right.
But this I kept like reading I like actually wanted to read what the backstory was, and I was like laughing hysterically because of like the backstory.
Gary.
So I just went back to every other vault and like started reading the terminals, and you actually get to feel for like what actually happened there. And that was something I'd never seen in a game. And that's why I was like, man, I just been overlooking these terminals and just missing out on really silly storylines.
And I'm so glad for the addition of audio logs in most games now.
Yeah.
There's usually a function there. It's like, okay, you don't have to read the computer. We're just going to have a guy talking. Even in Diablo, you pick up journals and it's like a dude's voice. I'm like, okay, great. I can keep playing and I don't have to read.
So we've talked about the first three, and then we get to New Vegas, which was kind of like an offshoot.
Like an upgrade.
I like that one.
Or not an upgrade, like an expansion pack. But before we get into that,
Yes.
we should take a little quick break
Yes.
for an ad read.
You have quick sponsor
Bear
break.
with us.
You know what, guys? It helps us keep the lights on. So, we love you and appreciate you. But we also love and appreciate our sponsor.
We do.
audibletrial.com/franchise unpacked. If you guys go to that link, it's going to give you a free 30-day trial to Audible. It gives you a free audiobook download, which is really nice, especially
That's
if you're doing
awesome,
a lot of driving or something. It's nice to be able to just toss on an audiobook and
That's really cool.
Knock out a book in a week just driving to work.
right. And I say because and they also have, we were talking about this last time too, a shocking number of like celebrity readings, which I thought was kind of interesting.
And not just for books they've written, they hiring actors or celebrities to read like, oh, your favorite book that you're like, oh wait, oh yeah, Catcher in the Rye. Or Bradley Cooper?
Right.
No, that's probably not one. I'm just saying, like, but that's the sort of thing you'll run into it. It's like, oh, this was read by Judi Dench or something like that. Dame Judi Dench.
Right.
I'm glad that you mentioned that Bradley Cooper might not be the person.
Probably not.
So yeah, if you guys want to check out that trial, it's audibletrial.com/franchise unpacked. Boom. Sponsor break over.
There it is.
Sponsor break over. Okay, so
Listen to them books.
Fallout New Vegas. It was kind of it was like a half game.
Yeah, it was made by Obsidian, so
it
which
was an
is actually
expansion, or not an expansion pack. Like it was GTA Vice City to GTA 3. It was the same. Same
I guess
engine.
I shouldn't call it a half game. It was its own game.
Well, they
Same
added
engine reskin. You know,
Well, they
new maps
added
and
they
everything.
added factions, which was like back in the old games, which is really cool. They also added like iron sights to weapons, which you couldn't do in Fallout 3. It was kind of
I
like
feel like the factions. Bringing that up,
dude, the factions were the coolest.
I
part
loved
of that
it.
game.
And then in 4, they changed it to like attacks on your town.
Yeah, I didn't like that aspect.
But
no.
let's before we get into that, back to Vegas. Vegas was cool because the factions, the Caesar and the Roman dudes, and
it was cool to learn what factions like each other and how you could actually get them to either like each other or just kind of subside to where they were
Right.
to begin
Or
with. You know?
fight.
Yeah, it's just like you couldn't resolve their issues. They're going to continue.
I didn't
That's
play
really
a lot
neat.
of New Vegas. I remember I got
man.
very frustrated toward the beginning, and I just kind of. You don't do that because you beat every game you play. But I feel like a somewhat common thing is like if something really like gets your goat at the beginning of a game, it's just hard for me to continue.
Actually, speaking of that, of my first 2 playthroughs, I had to restart the game.
Yeah.
So I do
would-
finish
there
the
must
games
have
I
been a
start,
curve.
but
I wonder, was it? I mean, and you played the hell out of 3.
it was a huge curve, just because of the that game. It really like you have to do the side quests, but it was
Yes.
cool because a lot of the times you get new companions and all this other really cool stuff. But it
I
was
would
the
like
first.
to replay it and then give it a shot.
Oh, dude! Oh, yeah. You better. Steam right now is actually it's on sale. For
I have it on PlayStation. Yeah.
Steam, pay us.
Yeah. Come on, Steve. If we get a Steam
We'll sponsor the hell out of you.
Actually,
Oh my
speaking
God.
of which, but Fallout 3 was Game of the Year edition. I have it on my PlayStation, but
Oh, man.
Game of the Year edition for my PC came out. I bought it for my PC. It was like $5 for
Oh,
Fallout
yeah,
3
okay,
getting
okay. So there's
beat.
no excuse not to.
Yeah.
Well, then we get to Fallout 4.
Yep, phenomenal. We all had we took a day off work and then spent the 72 straight hours basically playing it
wow.
on several
Yeah.
different TVs in one house.
It's absolutely incredible game, and I did love. I think one of my favorite things with Fallout 4, and I guess I can't speak too much to it because I don't know if they did, or rather how much of it they did in New Vegas, but they really, really emphasized having a companion, and every
Yes.
companion having a new skill set. Like I usually stuck with the dog, but what dog meat, I think.
Yeah.
But
I did Valentine a lot now that
Did
we're
you?
Do you know what's really cool? I don't know if you know this, but for the people even listening, if you kept your companion, he gave you like a slight perk. But you know, if you end up getting him to really like you, it's a permanent perk. So you don't have to have
really?
you don't have to. So the coolest, I think,
like
one
an
of the
additional skill.
yes, and it's permanent. You don't have to have the companion equipped to have
It like just becomes yours.
It becomes your.
dope.
So one of the best perks was Oh, for the people out there, I hope you don't hate me for saying the wrong companion, but it was either Paladin Dan's or it was Preston. But if you kept his permanent perk, it was like for every time there were 3 enemies or more, 20% more damage.
Oh man,
Really?
Yes, with VATS. Oh my
That's
goodness,
awesome.
that was
Bananas.
the best. It was
That's
amazing.
that's pretty cool. And the funny thing you mentioned that, and this is off topic, but we were at work. I told Gijan I got Diablo 3 Eternal Collection for Switch, and I've been playing it, and there was an item I just got called Kanai's Cube, and what it does, you can take your legendary weapons, put it in it, break them down, extract the skill out of it, and permanently attach it to yourself. So it's like without having it equipped, and then it keeps it as a list so you can change them out.
that's awesome.
It's so cool.
Well, didn't you also say like if you were to start a new character that
That's for Paragoning.
oh Paragon okay
Yeah,
that's what-
Paragoning's awesome. You're just leveling up your soul across all characters.
That's
right.
And it's so good.
I can't wait to play
It's
that
so-
before
yeah.
Denver.
So
Yeah,
Fallout
I'm so
4,
excited.
I mean, apart from that, Fallout 4 was another Fallout game.
The building. No, it was
The building was
the
cool.
building
The building was
aspect they
huge.
added. Yeah, you could build forts, and they did a wonderful job. I'd never seen a game a first-person shooter do such a good job of like lining up walls how you want and like
Right.
locking them in. It wasn't like it was like The Sims. It was as good as this. Like I would say, as good and like you fine-tuned as if not more than The Sims. And I made some
Absolutely.
sweet forts. We made some cool forts.
Yeah.
The thing is, I worry that they focused a little too much on it for 4. The map was a little smaller for my liking. The plot was a little lacking. I wish there were more factions.
Fractions.
Math. They're fracking.
2 over 3.
Fracking in my backyard. No, but they're instead of, and we were talking about it briefly, instead of having factions like in Vegas, they had just other, I don't want to call them gangs. I guess you could call them like camps.
Yeah.
Attack your towns once you, I don't want to say take over a town, but you could build for a town or like
okay.
your one town. Or
I will piggyback off that.
Yeah.
The one thing I hated about that, like, you didn't have to do all those things.
No,
right?
you
it was
didn't.
just like it was like
You
an
didn't have to
extra
protect
part.
your town.
No, and that was a cool thing. But the thing is, if you want to Preston like you and get that perk, you had to keep doing things for him. But if you were to go to a town and go, hey, you want to join with the Minutemen? They're like, sure, whatever. But hey, you got to go clear those places
Right.
first. You know, whatever.
Fetch quest,
fetch
quest,
quest, yeah. And it sucked because if you never kept up with that town, it would consistently get attacked. So as soon as you get a camp to side with you, you'd have to build a base and build houses and build
that's
water
right.
and
hours,
it just
hours.
yeah, and
if
that,
you want to do it effectively.
yeah, and that got kind of annoying. But I don't know I don't think you played the expansions with like the vault,
No, I
the
didn't.
vault or the Nuka World. Nuka World was the coolest, biggest expansion.
It was like
any-
a
Really?
theme park, right?
it was
a
it was-
shutdown theme park.
Yeah, it
What?
was. Oh, dude,
Oh,
it was.
man.
It was. So you start off with like as a contestant, and you had to like go through this like really crappy maze, and it was like full of booby traps, and you get to this part, and it was really cool. But like after you were done, you can go back into the wasteland of where Boston was, and you could actually make your faction instead of being the Minutemen, you can make them raider camps.
Oh, okay.
And you
I
can make
like
them,
that.
yeah. And it was it was like you didn't have to be good, which I didn't.
That was
want to be.
another thing too.
Right.
Yeah, you felt locked in. I was like, well, okay, I joined the Minutemen. I think that should have been like for a little bit until you can create your own
Vault, too.
faction or a vault.
Because
yeah.
one of the expansions was like making your my
it's-
vault was the coolest. And what's cool is like you could do when you're exploring the wasteland, you read about these vaults and like how sometimes great or how terrible they were
Yeah.
to people. You could actually like do experiments on the vaults.
Torture your people.
Yes,
That's awesome.
And like
That's
you say, when you
awesome.
make them go on a machine instead of like you could put it to where like if you go on this like this workout machine, it could really make you you could really make you strong and powerful, or you can make an experiment, really make them depressed, or really make them like
right.
crazy. And it was, I was like,
That's cool.
I'm always evil in Fallout games, so that was
is-
like right
that is
up
cool.
my alley.
I'm glad that they added those in the expansions because I was like, it's cool. I'm like, I love building a fort and like building the turrets and stuff, but then it's like, it just becomes me traveling back to this town to defend it once
Right.
again. The people in the town, my Minutemen, aren't doing much
Yeah.
to defend. They're useless basically. And it's funny you just mentioned fetch quests for Vegas and stuff. It's kind of what 76 is. Fallout 76, which was the after
was like the newest one.
the current newest one, a couple years after Fallout 4. It came out last year or this year.
a year, I think last year.
It's not. It's
It ha-
improved.
We had that game had more bugs than our first recording of this session.
Ah, nice, nicely done. It is a multiplayer online Fallout experience without VATS,
No, it has VATS.
but not like the
Yes.
time slow.
No,
You can't stop time.
no.
basically.
You could just quickly target. Yeah,
Which is good. Yeah, you improve your accuracy. But
it's
if you've ever played Fallout, the first person shooter mechanics are not that of Call of Duty, which I think are, if you're going to play a competitive online first person shooter,
It's clunky.
yeah, you've got to be quick.
Agile.
You've got to be
Well,
agile, fast, like the Call
They
of
actually
Duty
made the
game.
jump higher.
Oh, okay. But it's like it's weapon handling, even the weapon styles. It's funny because there are all these future modded weaponry by people like in camps. So they're kind of sloppy. It's fun.
I will say when I was first playing it, I think I said this last time in the recording, and I'm gonna say it again. It just felt like I was chasing ghosts. Like when you like
Go to another terminal.
like you'd find an audio log, and I'd be like, hey, I'm over here, and it's like, oh, they're dead. Another audio log.
yeah.
No, but I'm over here, and it's like.
Go to this
chasing
terminal
ghosts.
to hit the button and then turn
But
on
I will
another
say
terminal.
they finally, like Bethesda, finally after just the crap that's being thrown their way and all the negative, it's well deserved.
Yep, they screwed up.
They're finally they added a nuclear winter, which is like their battle royale mode. It's actually a lot of fun. It's not something that's had a lot of replay value. It's cool.
That's at least paced.
It's
I
paced,
think would be
but
more
they're-
appropriate.
They
for it.
are doing a free DLC with actual like NPCs.
Good.
Yes, because
I think all DLC for that game should be.
they're I think with this a lot of crap that they've been getting, they're actually listening to their audience and their fans more, which is great.
as they
I'm actually
should.
I will play that DLC. I'm not sure if I'm gonna like it, but I'm gonna play it and I'm gonna.
It's funny you mentioned half game. I would truly consider 76 a half game.
Yeah.
It's like they had one great idea. There's just no story.
I don't wanna-
There's no like nothing to it.
Yeah,
You're
it's just
chasing nuclear codes.
yeah, and I was I forgot. So I was watching this one stream. I don't know his name, but it was so funny. I saw him. I was watching him for like an hour or two because it was the first time getting the codes, and he had all the codes. And I don't know if they fixed this, and I hope they did. But I was watching the stream, and he had like 20,000 viewers, and it was like his first time stream.
I remember this. Yeah.
And he entered it like let's just say the code was 1 2 3 4 5 6. He enters it 1 2 3 4 5 7 and hits enter, and it goes. And he goes, oh, let me just enter it again. And he had to go find every code again.
I would have thrown my
Everybody,
PlayStation through the
his
window.
chat blew up so
Well, and-
much.
and also-
He felt so defeated.
They
dude.
were under a lot of fire because there was one player that had collected like all kinds of ammo and guns. Like he had spent it was
Oh,
like
yeah, I remember
hundreds
this.
and
Right
hundreds of
away,
hours.
I think right when it started, he
Well,
just sat
around
there.
that time there was that glitch for ammo. People thought that's what they
Right.
thought they
and
were
people
doing.
thought that he was exploiting a glitch. He wasn't. He was just collecting.
Straight up hoarding.
And Bethesda banned him. They got rid of his account because they thought he was cheating.
and
They got a lot of flack for that, I bet.
well, he goes, well, kind of, you just have my account back after they reviewed his thing. They said, oh yeah, you didn't. We have nothing for you now. And it's just
Right.
like, oh, it's
That
just,
sucks because it's like, listen, I might have abused your system, but it was your system you programmed into this game.
Right.
I did not hack it. I didn't cheat
No,
it.
he didn't.
Like,
He
I
literally
used
ganged
your
it.
system.
Yeah, and I think he
You
also
allowed me to do this.
because now you could actually make your own ammo, and I think
Oh.
right around that time they allowed people to do that just for people like him.
Yeah, just because they're like, well, we made a game where people can literally scavenge everything and leave you with nothing, which is clever. But if there was plot related to that, it would be nice. Instead of just like, oh, we've got one warlord with all the guns,
Right.
and then we're running around chasing ghosts with
So
nothing.
let
just
me ask
so
you guys
sad.
this, because we got to get into the future here, because we
Yeah.
can talk about this. We seriously could sit and talk about this for an hour and a half. So I'm gonna be the timekeeper. I'm gonna be the tough guy. Roll a d20 to see if time is
Natural.
Anyway, we're getting nerdy.
Hell yeah.
So future of the franchise. I guess I want to ask you guys two questions. I kind of sound like Arnold Schwarzenegger there. I want to ask you a bunch of questions.
We're looking for big change in Sacramento.
I don't know why that was my fault. I don't like him as an actor.
Republic of Sacramento.
Only as a governor.
Oh
We're
my
looking for
gosh.
big change, Sacramento.
So, what do you guys want to see out of Fallout 5?
Okay.
And do you guys want to see some sort of Fallout movie, TV show, something like that?
I'll go first. A Netflix or type series would be dope.
That'd
I
be
mean, they're
incredible.
doing The Witcher, and
it's
that looks
kind of
amazing.
Like, I was Kim's watching Handmaid's Tale right now. Amazing, horrifying show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, oh my god, shocking. But there's a cool area where there's like a wasteland area where basically women who might have committed a crime or infertile are sent there basically to work themselves to death. And it reminded me so much of Fallout whenever they were there. I was just like, this would be so cool. Like seeing the struggles of people like surviving in that kind of, maybe even a little bit before vaults start opening up. Set the world in that, see the people who are topsiders. Then you get the others coming out of these vaults or something. That would be
Do you know what
make
it'd be-
almost the vault people the bad guys in a situation.
Do you know
That'd
it'd be
neat.
cool if they had a post-apocalyptic like Fallout world, and it, like a show or a movie, doesn't matter, but
Right.
you don't find out that it's like the Fallout universe until like halfway.
That'd be dope.
That'd
You know what I mean?
too.
Something that would
see a
because
brotherhood
at this
at the very
point
end.
they need to surprise us with something good.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And for as far as a future of a game would
Yeah.
go for Fallout 5, they did something amazing before Fallout 4 came out with the companion app for Fallout Shelter. It was a free game. It was awesome. It's cartoony. You're the Pip Boys. You make your own shelter. It's kind of an idle game. Just click in and just charging up, currency or whatever.
I mean, there is microtransactions.
Yeah, they're all of
But
course.
you
don't
actually
have to.
easily you could easily
You can
unlock.
literally avoid them very
all
easily.
costs.
Which is cool. They're starting to learn that microtransactions shouldn't be able to beat a game for you. But I would love a companion, and I always say this, a mobile game that would hook up. You're running your vault through your phone, and then when you pick up the game on your PlayStation or computer, your vault is that much improved, and it's
Right.
been gaining you
That'd be
this
cool.
much. And I want maybe multiple cities. I want a big map again.
I'm sorry, but it blows my mind that to this day, was it Morrowind?
Yeah.
Morrowind is still bigger than
Big. It might be.
Morrowind. What was the one before Morrowind?
Red Dead Redemption may have now taken the cake with largest map ever for a game.
But I want something
I
that
think-
big.
yes,
you know,
yes,
why,
you can
why
do
not
it.
at this point? Because I heard like the next gen, because this will definitely be next gen. I hope they do it because next gen is going to support ray tracing. It's going to support like a lot of amazing. Give me the whole U.S.
Look, GTA is doing it. GTA 6 is going. It's called Project USA of GTA 6, and it's going to be all three cities with little cities. in
Yeah,
between.
that's what I want.
So,
That I want to. I don't want an online game. Do not. If I don't even want it as an aspect. Give it keep doing Fallout 76
think-
until that game runs to.
I'm going to be interested to see GTA 6 how they pull it off. The traveling between cities is how I'm most interested in seeing that. I think it works even better in a Fallout situation.
Yeah.
You traveling between towns is literally your journey. I mean, you're on foot. You're on foot.
Right.
As opposed to GTA, I'm like, am I going to be in a car? Is it going to be a fast travel? Do we get in a plane? Do I see it? Can I drive through this open America?
yeah.
What are we talking about here?
Yeah, yeah.
I would
love-
yeah. So I think, and even with when Far Cry 5, huge man, like something, it was big and expansive, and you could just see I want to see those. I want to be high up in a mountain and looking way down into a valley at a town, and I never lose sight of it, and I can keep walking towards it and walking towards it.
Right.
And stuff comes out. I just want more size and more factions, and that's my 2 cents for a year and a half.
Yeah. And I think for me, because I want to end on you, I want to hear your thoughts. For sure. I think for me, I would love to see a Netflix series. I think Fallout is very well suited to something like that, and Netflix.
I agree with that.
Ensemble cast.
Yeah, Netflix has the means to make that happen well, I think.
Or Disney buys it.
I mean,
Did you know they just bought the Parker Brothers? You know, the makers of Monopoly. I'm just kidding. That's not true. That's not true. That's not true. That's just my little
get at us,
my
Walt.
little jab at them.
We're back, Walt.
Yeah.
So are you.
Bring the head in the jar.
Litigious.
Anyway, so yeah, but I think that a Netflix miniseries would be great. Even if it was just a one-off, if it was just a what are they called, a limited series?
Oh
A
yeah.
miniseries, yeah.
Like have it be something where it's
episode arc.
yeah, like one season, that's it. Because I don't think you don't want to milk something. Well, I guess I go back and forth because you don't want to milk something like that. But you could go into so many different stories. You could tell a story of
build.
one vault.
Yeah, you can build
For a
a vault.
season.
You could watch people build a
Yeah.
town.
Or you could be like, you could see like
Megaton vault.
like places unfold with each vault, but you don't know
Right,
how they're
right.
connected, but they are kind of towards the end. That'd
And
be
then
kind of cool.
As far as a game goes, I think honestly we just need more of what Fallout 4 was, maybe a little bit more balanced between, the gameplay styles. And there's really not much that they can add except for the size, but I think I would also like to see something where every building is open still.
Yes.
And where,
Yes.
even if it's decrepit and deteriorating, you can still go into that building and loot it, even if there's two things in there, you know what I mean? But have it be something where it's so open world that you can open every door. I think that's something that would be really, really interesting. If they can't expand the map to be, United States size.
Yeah, I mean that would be so cool if they could.
One last thing, if you're going to make any multiplayer situation in the future for this type of game, I think an easy fix for it would be make it so you can have only 1 to 4 or so people jump into your
Yeah.
game with the story mode, main story mode.
Absolutely.
You
Co-op,
have-
but not like online.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
not online. So you can either, if you want to have VATS, I have an idea. You create a device in the game. It's an item every character has on their Pip-Boy. You trigger VATS, and it creates a bubble of radiation around you. If there's an enemy that enters it or is in it, or even if another player is accidentally in it, everyone is slowed
Right.
down in that. So
Yeah.
it's almost like a wave of effect that only lasts a little
Right,
bit,
right.
but you can all utilize at the same time.
Yeah.
Or
Yes.
make it something that instead of being a bubble, make it a like a faded radius.
Yes, a radiation
Like, yeah, like
pulse.
if you're within the first 10 feet, time is almost completely stopped. And so like if you're on the outside looking in,
You can be
and-
running around.
and your teammate has stopped somebody, you have the advantage right there. You can also see them. If you're in the mid area, time is slowed down by 50%. If you're on the outer ring, so it's like enemies are slowly
Fighting bigger,
getting- yeah.
nastier mutants would be so cool if 3 people were running at different speeds.
Yeah.
Like that could be a challenge like crazy.
And that would add a whole new aspect of strategy to it, because then, if you freeze somebody and I'm, halfway across the map with a sniper, although I'm not using VATS, it's almost like we're all tapping into
Your
each other's
advantage.
skills.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, well, he's slow now, so I can get him. So I think that could be a fun.
Or you make the other people who join your game, they're your cohort. So they're not vault dwellers. They might not have that ability, but you do.
Right.
So they're your dog or they're your Valentine. Something
Yeah,
like that.
that-
What about you, G-Jen?
So I'm going to try to make it short, but
No,
I'm
no.
probably not going to. Here we go. So I would obviously love, like I said, the whole U.S. But what have we seen in every Fallout? We've seen the Mojave Wasteland. We've seen the DC Wasteland. We've seen
Right. It's all
the
wasteland.
Appalachia. I want the new Fallout 5 to have everything incorporated. So like you could actually go back to those old buildings.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
know,
that'd be cool.
something, but I want like the whole drive of the game. I know it sounds weird because it hasn't happened in any Fallout game, and I think it'd be because yeah, there's airplanes and stuff, but there's no vehicles. I would love to
Right.
see like you trying to build like back into like
Mad
think of it,
Max
think of
style.
it like okay for like because we're from Detroit, we're from the Motor City. What if like one of the missions is like you finally make your way to the Motor City and they're trying to rebuild vehicles again? Like I want to see
Society
you
coming
know, it'd
back.
be really
but
nuts
I
too.
want it like when you meet those people from the Motor City, like oh yeah, we don't like people from Chicago.
Yeah.
I want to
Right.
I want to see that type of
Which,
factions,
by the
but
way,
not
nothing
based
against Chicagans.
Chicago. Good.
Chicogans.
Chicagans.
Shikigans.
It sounds like a racial.
No,
slur.
nothing against them, of course, nothing against anybody. But I would love instead of like, oh, the California Republic doesn't like the Kaiser
Yeah.
Legion. I don't want
Right.
that. I want it to be like it would be kind of funny, like Michigan people from the Motor City or whatever they want to call it to be like, oh, we hate people from Ohio
It'd be like,
because it's like
right,
a
It'd
real
be actually
thing.
like
And
district states,
Yes.
like governed districts. Or
Yes,
something.
and
Well,
I-
it would be cool
bigger
too, because
scale.
if you're building vehicles, you could eventually build a plane, and then you go to Hawaii, which is like, you know what I mean? Like, but that'd be cool.
Not touched.
Like, you have a whole
Not-
island that's just totally overgrown.
Beautiful. No,
You know what I
beautiful.
mean? Like that'd be so
Yes.
cool. cool.
Not untouched.
It
That would
wasn't
be
touched
so
by
cool.
the nukes. It would, yeah. That's a really interesting, and it's almost bringing because they brought the building aspect into 4, but building now, like you rebuild the Washington Monument.
Yes,
To bring people to your, like to bring hundreds.
Go
of
back
people
to Rivet
towards you.
City and that boat that they're
rebuild
on.
the city.
And that boat is now movable.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
could
Like it would be so cool to have those because I feel like it was so cool just to revisit those old games in a new system and just think, wow. Like, you know what I mean?
That's-
Like, does this
going
is
back
crazy.
to GTA, they do such a good job with 5. There are those old areas in Los Santos that you're like, this was in San Andreas.
it's Grove
This
Street.
street was
Yeah,
in this.
yeah,
Even
Grove
in like
Street,
the whole
Grove Street.
design of it.
In Breath of the Wild, they did the same thing
Yeah.
where you
Lamon
see,
Ranch.
you see Lamon
my
Ranch,
God.
1,000 years later, whatever it is, destroyed.
Like ruined.
But it's like you get there and you just have that moment where you're like, oh my god,
My
like
childhood literally was like,
And I feel like I for the people at Bethesda, if you ever listen to this, I would love it. I would buy the shoot out of the game.
nice save. Nice
Sorry, save.
But
PG-13.
I think that kind of brings us to the end
our-
of all things.
The world's ending.
Yeah, the world is ending. War never changes, and it's just such a good game. I mentioned Mad Max briefly. Another surprisingly underrated game for the Mad Max game. It's this open world.
I'll have to check it out.
Awesome.
Oh,
you build your
man,
own. Dude,
it's so
you'd
cool.
love it. It's surprisingly
it's a bit
underrated.
clunky, but the more you actually
such a
unlock,
good
you
job.
actually
I
realize
I
it's
have
not
a confession,
clunky.
you guys. I still haven't seen Mad Max.
Oh, Fury Road is so good, and
I
they
have to see
just
it.
announced 3 more sequels or 2 more sequels of that of that one
Wow.
with Tom Hardy because they were caught in so much legal issues from Fury Road. It took them this. He had this. He's like, I had the scripts ready to go. We would already have probably 2 more Mad Max movies if the law or
and,
someone didn't sue him.
And before we get going, I did want to say, make sure that you guys are submitting your ideas for future franchises. If there's something that you guys want to hear more about, and you guys can connect with us. Actually, you can connect with me on Instagram at the Zach Rogers,
You can connect with me at the Dave of Wonders.
and we have a plug for Gijon. So if you
Plug away.
yeah, plug away.
So I just to let you guys know, I am a streamer on Twitch. I'm a new streamer, so like don't expect a lot. I do a lot of virtual reality gaming.
Oh, it's so cool.
Yeah, I do a lot of. So if the Twitch name is Goon VR, or if you want to see like updates on when I will be streaming, you can go on my Twitter. It's actually Gijon_the creator.
And we'll put these all up in the link. We'll have everything spelled out.
yeah.
What my Twitch name will be changing to that, but you got to wait 3 months.
So,
But
if you look them up, though, you'll definitely find
It is
them.
GOON_VR or just
No,
Goon
just
VR
Goon
one word?
VR one
Okay,
word.
cool.
Goon VR
That's
one
on
word.
Twitch.
And by the way, I have to figure out how to because just a little side note, Fallout 4 VR only. It doesn't go full screen, so I'm figuring that out now. But once I do, I'm going to be streaming Fallout 4, like starting off from the beginning and just kind of like doing and I'll be posting like kind of my gameplay throughout YouTube.
And we'll put a couple of those videos up on our YouTube channel as well.
Awesome,
Especially
cool.
for the
Yes.
Fallout ones. We'll have those. Yeah. So be looking for all that stuff. And you're usually playing around 9 to 9:30 Eastern Standard Time.
That is correct, yes. And I mostly do like Pavlov VR since it's like one of my.
He's literally the best player I've ever seen. I'm not lying to you guys. It's bananas.
It's I got.
What
I'm
is
not-
it?
Pavlov. It's basically Counter-Strike VR.
Yes.
Oh, nice.
It's so
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, I'm actually. I'll show you a video.
Zach,
after.
you
Yeah,
are.
yeah,
You
dude,
are.
you're gonna be like, no
we
way.
have to go
dude.
watch this video.
You gotta go watch videos.
We gotta go bye.
So thank you guys so much for listening. We'll catch you next week. Make sure you like it, share it, subscribe to it, the YouTube things, but for podcasts.
And also check out audibletrial.com/franchise unpacked. Free 30 days, free audiobook. Check it out.
Yeah. And Gijon, thank you so much for coming and being on the podcast.
Seriously, thank you guys for having me.
I hope that we
yeah.
don't lose this episode, knock on wood.
We'll see. Yeah.
But yeah, we'll catch you guys later on.
See you later.
Bye, guys.
Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. The next franchise we'll be unpacking is Men in Black. But in the meantime, feel free to drop us a line with any questions, comments, or future episodes at franchiseunpacked@gmail.com. Also, be sure to subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and Spotify. And be sure to share so we can keep these episodes coming your way. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.